We're going to be using a description in order to write a rule for a new function here. So they're telling me to start with the square root parent function on this one, translate it 5 units right and 2 units down, and we're going to call the new function g of x. So this would say g of x is equal to translate 5 units to the left, we would use the square root, and then inside the square root we would have to say x plus 5, because that would make it translate left 5 units. And to make it translate 2 units down outside the radical, we would have to have a minus 2. And that would be our new function. For the second one here, they're telling us to start with a cube root parent function. So this time it's going to have to be a cube root. Again, we're going to call the new function g of x, like they told us to in the directions. And they tell us to reflect it across the x-axis and then translate it 4 units to the right. So that would be a negative in front to reflect it across the x-axis. I didn't make that long enough. And then to translate 4 units right inside the radical, we'll replace the x with x. Sorry, that was wrong. Minus 4. And that would be our new function for that one. For the next one, we're starting with a function that is not one of the parent functions. So this time our f of x is square root of x plus 4 minus 2. They want us to vertically compress it by a factor of 1/4 and then translate it right 3 units. So in order to do that, first of all, we're going to call this new function g of x. I'm getting some lag on my pen there. There we go. Okay, so that means I have to multiply the original f of x by 1/4. Now my original f of x had more to it than just a square root. So I need to make sure that that 1/4 applies to the entire function. So this is just going to be this first transformation here, just vertically compressing by a factor of 1/4. So actually, I don't think I want to call it g of x just yet. When I do this, I'm going to distribute this 1/4 to each piece inside there. So that's going to be 1/4 times the square root of x plus 4. And then 1/4 times negative 2, which would be minus 1/2. So now I'm ready for the other transformation. The other transformation is to translate right 3 units. So that means I have to take the function that I have over here. This one, this is my last transformation, so this is actually going to be my g of x now. In order to make it translate 3 units to the right, I have to replace the x in that function with x minus 3. Now notice I'm just replacing the x with that, so that plus 4 is still in there. So now when I simplify there, inside the radical, I've got x minus 3 plus 4, which would give me x plus 1, and then minus 1/2. That would be my final g of x there. So this is the new function. And for the very last one there, I'm starting with a function that is not the parent function. So my function is negative third root of x plus 7. And we have to translate it like it shows here. So in order to make that happen, I have to do these transformations in order. The reflection has to happen before I do any of the translations. So I'm going to apply that negative to the entire function first. So once again, I'm going to distribute that negative, so that would give me a third root of x, and then that would make that minus 7. Now I can do the other 2 transformations. So this one here is moving to the right 8, which means I'm replacing the x in the function with x minus 8. So using my new function here, I'd have the cube root of x minus 8 minus 1. And then to do this last transformation there, that's moving it down 1. Oops, sorry, that was minus 7. So moving it down 1. So that means on the end of this whole function here, I have to put in a minus 1. So this is now going to give me my g of x. That's got all of the transformations they asked for in it. So that would be the cube root of x minus 8. And then the parentheses there really aren't doing anything, so I can pretend like they're not there. And it would say minus 7 minus 1, which would give me minus 8. And this is my new function. Now answer the questions on the Google form.